Cowork.
Good morning, Jason Padgett. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
We skipped a little week there, but that's okay. We both had a lot going on. I was in Detroit with my daughter at a volleyball game. You've had some healthcare issues with some family that you've been helping out with, but we're back and a lot's happened. And 2 weeks is like 2 years in AI.
No, I know. It really does seem like I had just told you. I'm like, I feel like I'm so far behind. But first of all, let me ask, how was the tournament? Everything go well?
It was awesome. It was probably the last daddy-daughter trip. I mean, she's 15. She had her learner's permit, so she drove all the way through Indiana. It was my first time really riding as a passenger with her a whole lot, and she did a great job. And I was, of course, Daddy gave her a hard time. She got stuck on the curb in this U-turn Dairy Queen that had like a U-turn almost shaped drive-through. We stopped there, and she got stuck on the curb there. I was so embarrassed. Like, I had fun giving her a hard time about that. I mean, dads are here to give you a hard time, right?
They are. That's what my dad does, yeah. Still, to
But
this day.
but my older daughter, when she crashed her car, you know who she called? The level-headed, yeah.
That's right.
The one who wasn't good, the one who's calm under pressure, who's an asshole maybe a little bit when we're just poking fun, but calm under pressure, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad everybody's back safe. But you have got to catch me up on what's happening in the world of AI, because I am way behind.
Well, you don't get to do that. How are things in your world? We got to check in with you first.
Yeah.
People tune into this show because they like to hear Julie.
That's very kind. It's all right. It is all right. Again, if I could force AI growth in the skilled nursing facility kind of arena, that would be where I'd want to go. I keep sharing with people, conversations you and I have had over and over, which is hopefully by the time, if I make it to my parents' age, I am hopeful that robots will be doing the, more embarrassing parts of healthcare. That would be a perfect situation to me. And somebody had suggested, they're like, maybe you create it. And I'm like, well, I don't even know. I wouldn't even know where to start with that, but you might. But I really think those facilities in particular could use AI, especially to prevent health issues, to prevent emotional distress kind of issues for family members. Like, they could really benefit from a stronger implementation of AI, for sure.
Yeah, and that's why we need everybody at the table, because, you have such a different perspective and it's such an eye-opener. When I think about robots in healthcare, I think no way in hell for a long time are people going to want a robot taking care of them until we have like little babies that were raised with robots that are used to them. But you brought up the use case of like bathing, changing you, taking you to the bathroom. And I'm like, well, now yes, I would much rather a robot do those things for me when I am incapacitated than I would any human being.
Yeah. Well, it's embarrassing for the person going through it. It can be a little embarrassing for, the person having to do that. And you think about, I know a lot of, it would allow me, right, as a child, it would allow me to still be a child and a love and a caregiver, but in a totally different way than hands-on and stuff that I'm not trained in and I don't feel comfortable doing. It would be nice. That would be nice. You know what I mean? Like, as long as it's gentle, which I assume you can just program it to, not rip people apart while it's dealing with them, obviously. We have things like hoist lifts. What are the...
Yep.
Yeah, like those already exist. So it's just that next step. And then I know that I have seen, I don't know how real they are, but, video out of like China on like breakdancing robots. And it's like...
Yes. Let's take a step back, but that all plays into what we were talking about before we got on here with your friend in coding and the workforce development. But let's take a big picture glance at what's happened in AI just in the last couple of weeks. And that will lead up to kind of where I feel like we are with all of that. And so the funny thing is there was a big World AI Summit in India just this last week, and there was a very awkward moment because they had a let's all hold hands and kumbaya for world peace, and Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, was standing next to Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, and they refused to hold hands like a couple of 7-year-olds.
Wow. Wow.
And somebody brought up these are the guys that we're entrusting to write world peace and to deploy peaceful models that aren't going to destroy our world, and they won't even hold hands on a
Yeah.
stage. So God, God help us all. But
Yeah.
the biggest news is OpenClaw. In the last few months, and I think I was a little concerned. OpenClaw was Peter Steinberger, this Austrian software engineer who has deployed like 500 different little projects on GitHub. GitHub is a repository where the nerds go to kind of build things and share it with each other. It's an open source community, and he's tried all these different things, and all of a sudden he created this thing called Moltbot that was an agentic harness that you could use Claude Code or ChatGPT Codex, any of these coding models, and just put it on your computer, entrust it to access to your full computer, your bank account if you wanted to, and it would just run nonstop and do things for you, like full agentic workflows. And it took the internet by storm. It took the world by storm. There were some security issues. There was one person that spent thousands of dollars because he gave it access to his credit card, and it got stuck in a loop trying to figure out how to access something, and just kept trying and trying and trying, and ended up costing him money. But it opened the whole world's eyes to the fact that agentic workflows are possible. Maybe not 100% safe yet, but they are possible. And because of it, the stock market lost $1 trillion. The software on the stock market went down by $1 trillion. I mean, Nvidia dropped 21 points. All these companies, the stock market often overreacts to things like this. I am not at all an advisor, but I will tell you that companies like Salesforce and Nvidia, that are like these giant mega companies that service enterprises, they are not going to be displaced by AI tomorrow. Right?
Right.
Smaller companies, maybe small to medium-sized businesses will start building their own software using these tools for edge cases or just in-house use cases. You might even make your own CRM at a company like yours that has 10 people working for it, right? But GE is not going to do that. They're not going to just spin up a CRM. So I tell my son who likes to invest, I'm like, these big companies, if they drop, I'd buy. I'm not, if you do that and you lose money, sorry, but that is, if I had money to invest, I would do that. So I don't think it's going to displace these big companies, but it has shown that smaller companies are going to really start building their own software when you can just talk to an agent and be like, hey, we need a CRM for the 30 of us that does this and this and this and has these categories, and it can just build it for you, and you can run it. That's so much cheaper, so much more fine-tuned to your needs, and it is really we're going to start looking at that white-collar workforce displacement fairly heavily. And there are some studies that are showing that it's starting to happen already.
Interesting. I love the idea of it because I do know, we do use a CRM now, and I'm like, oh man, but it'd be nice if it did this and this also, because I'm tracking it in different places. So I could see how that would save us money, right? But so when you say the white collar, eliminating jobs, what industry is that kind of starting with? Is it starting with software, or is it starting with?
Well, yeah. It's hit software fairly hard. I mean, there have been several big software engineers at Anthropic and other places that have come out and just admitted it. There was actually an article by a software guy that really kind of opened the eyes of many people in the American public. Peter Schumer wrote an article and said, I have not written a line of code in 3 months. All I do is vibe code, more or less. I just tell what I want it to do, and it does it, and then it deploys it, and I look at it and tell it if I want something fixed. So this Peter Schumer article kind of compared where we are right now to where we were right before COVID, when the Hunan province had COVID, and we were kind of over here looking at it going, wow, that's kind of that sucks for China, right? And then a week later, everything was closed. We were all masked up. Schumer suggests that we're on the cusp of that with economic disruption, and whether or not that's true, I'm not 100. I don't know if that's a lot of human adoption has to happen before this disrupts a whole lot of things. But there are companies, and I can't name. I almost wrote it down. There are companies, larger companies, that are starting to mandate if you refuse to use AI, you're out the door. We are basing our performance valuations on it. Like you will be using this, and so you will start seeing where the people who are, it might be interesting, right? This may be a spot for Gen Z and even Gen Alpha as they enter to kind of displace that middle management, Gen Xers who are refuse or slow to it because they're kind of AI native, and they might just be like, "Hey, I'm more than happy to, I can learn this dude's job fast,
Mm.
and just by using AI, and I'm more than happy to use it. So I want that promotion. I want to be in that position. I can take 3 spots." As one person with leveraging AI. That's the kind of displacement I think you're going to start to see.
Okay. Very interesting. So, I mean, I assume with every development, just like when the industrial revolution happened, all that stuff, I assume it's just going to be like a shift in where that work goes, right? Like, I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know. I feel like the trades would be a good spot for people to fall into. I could be wrong on that too, but it'll be interesting to see what jobs are also then created on the back end of that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting set of conversations. So the one thing I will say that I was starting to worry for OpenAI because Google has really, this Google was behind 2 years ago. Their AI Bard was telling people to use glue to keep mozzarella cheese on pizza, because there was actually a Reddit article where some Italian guy recommended that, and it pulled it off there. But it was everyone, Google was kind of the laughing stock. Now all of a sudden they're like in the forefront, and everybody knows that they have much more than just a chatbot. But Gemini is phenomenally performing. They just released Gemini 3, and it's crushing all the benchmarks. You've got Anthropic that seems to be slowly surpassing AI or OpenAI in, particularly enterprise. Like businesses want to use Claude, me included. And so I started thinking, yikes, what's is are things looking a little dark for OpenAI? And then Sam did something I think was extremely smart.
What was that?
He hired Peter Steinberger,
Okay.
the guy that did OpenClaw. So they took OpenClaw, they made a foundation for it so that it's not getting engulfed by. They want that to be an open source, everybody have fun with it product going for. But now Steinberger is inside OpenAI, figuring out how to create this agentic AI workflow within OpenAI. I think that was a brilliant move by Sam. I think that they will definitely accelerate based on that. And that's, that kind of thing, that combined with Claude Cowork. Claude Cowork is essentially Claude Code. Like I was telling you, a guy like Peter Steinberger can just talk to this machine and it will spin up an app or something. Well, that's still in Claude Code is in what's called an IDE, which looks like the old DOS interface when we first had computers. Like it's very foreign to a white collar worker. Well, now they have Claude Cowork where you can do the exact same type of work, but it looks like the Chat GPT or Claude interface. So you're just basically using AI to create code to go either create spreadsheets. I mean, it creates beautiful PowerPoints now. That used to be it's a skill in there. I used to think, okay, Claude is awesome for presentations, but it won't turn it into a PowerPoint or a PDF. Well, now there's skills in there that will do all that. I can just download it. I can actually edit it on my computer once I download it. I mean, it's all just getting much, much better and much, much, much safer. I think the thing that I think about the future jobs is there has been a big push, and I just heard this morning, Gen Alpha's parents are pushing them toward the trades. Um, and as we build out these data centers, and because robotics is behind, the trades are safe for a little while. Now, here's my concern. If I have a Gen Alpha kid, which I do, she wants to be a doctor, so I'm not worried about her being a plumber. But if you think about a lifetime worth of work, that's like a 40 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
This stuff, every iteration of technology happens faster. So robotics hasn't hit its Chat GPT moment yet, but it likely will in the next 5 to 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And once it does, like we're gonna have robots doing all that stuff. So, yes, the next 10 years, if you are a plumber or a pipe fitter or a construction worker, is probably going to be very lucrative for you. You're going to be making more money than those industries have ever made. You're going to have more work than you can do, but you better have a backup plan which a lot of these Gen Alpha's parents are pushing them towards an entrepreneurship mindset too. So I agree with. Like, yeah, be a plumber, but start a plumbing company so that once the robots hit, you can start incorporating robots into your plumbing company.
Right.
Because if you're just depending on human labor, the only places I see it staying relevant for another 20 years are healthcare, probably education, and both at smaller percentages eventually, but not for a while.
Yeah. It's really interesting because, you know, with any kind of, death, to put it that way, there comes just a new avenue of I'm fascinated because people are resilient, and we'll see what avenues open up from stuff like this, because somebody's gonna, somebody's brain is gonna work like Sam Altman's or whatever, and create a whole new industry that we just didn't even think of at this point in time. So that'll be, there's always got to be a silver lining somewhere, right? Like, not all
No,
doom and
it's
gloom.
true.
Yeah.
It's true. Entertainment's a great place to look at that. I mean, ByteDance, which is the company that owns TikTok, released what was it called? C-Dance, which is a video generation tool that is insanely good. And of course, it had no copyright stuff on it. So you got videos of Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt fighting over being in the Epstein files, like fist fighting on top of a building. You got SpongeBob as Walter White with Patrick in the background running around as Jesse cooking up methamphetamines. I mean, you got all this hilarious stuff, and of course, cease and desist have been issued and this and that. But there are already people who are taking this technology and starting to create closer and closer to feature-length films. So you're going to have an entire robust industry of very niche films. People, I mean, think about when Sundance first came out. When those independent films first came out, before the big companies gobbled them all up, right? There were some really cool movies. Like, Lars and the Real Girl, one of Ryan Gosling's first movies, where he was in love with a sex doll. Like, that was a phenomenal film. Juno was a phenomenal film.
Yeah.
And people with those weird and quirky ideas are going to be able to make a movie like at a tenth of the budget with some AI and talent. I mean, you still have to understand the lighting and all of that. It's still a skill set, but it's a much different vertical, and we're going to have so much entertainment that's just kind of catered to niche interest. And I think that will be really interesting, and the same thing will happen in every other industry.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because even with that conversation, right? So if like Brad Pitt, for example, ends up signing some sort of deal where, okay, you can use right, so he just gets to sit back and get paid for using his name or what have you. It's like, we're all for sale. That's kind of what like, even the whole movement of influencers, which I think is going to be on its way out too. But even that, you know what I mean? Like, we are all for sale in some way, shape, or form. Like, we're all willing to, do what we have to do to be able to survive, so to speak. But, like, would you sell the rights to your image, your likeness, your voice to make pennies on the dollar or quarters on the dollar? Like, would you be willing to do that?
Oh yes, reoccurring income I think is the best way to go.
Yeah.
The James Earl Jones Foundation already did it. So they sold Darth Vader, the James Earl Jones's voice, to 11 Labs, and that's why you have Darth Vader in Roblox. Roblox. I mean, yes, it's a thing. It's happening.
No, it's definitely. Truly, the influencer phase, that kind of, like, I would think, opened people's eyes to that in general, because it's like, yes. Okay, well, first of all, you don't have to be in Hollywood to get paid for your likeness and your, why my brain's not working, I don't know. But, your likeness, your voice, your all that stuff. So, it's been brewing, I think. So we'll see where that goes. I mean, to get paid to not have to do anything is appealing, right?
If you look at some of your biggest, like, multi-millionaires, like Tim Ferriss, right? One of his first jobs, while he was traveling the world, he just offshooted a protein powder drink and launched it online as a distributor through some Chinese companies, and was making hand over fist money like while he was traveling the world getting to meet other people. Like if you can generate reoccurring revenue that doesn't take any work, that really frees you up to do a whole lot of other things. Now you will have to, and I know where I think your mind is, which is you're going to have to kind of police like what is my presence being sold as? Am I becoming known as something that I don't want to become known as, right? And so that that becomes, like you were just saying, a different vertical of work that we're not really that used to, that we will have to learn how to work around.
Yeah, and that's exactly right because it's you got to think of yourself as a brand then, right? So like what do I want to be
Yes.
aligned with? What do I want to make sure I'm not aligned with? What do I like who am I and what do I stand for? And that kind of becomes the avenue of where you see growth. You know what I mean? At least putting restrictions on it because I think a lot of people when you're trying to figure it out and you're just trying to make money, I think a lot of people get caught up in, oh, well this place is willing to pay me $2,000 and then you come and find out, they hurt puppies or something and you're associated with it now. And it's like,
Yeah.
the whole thing.
100%. Just like the Epstein files, right? Like some of the people that are having repercussions who maybe never visited that island or did anything nefarious with that guy, but because they actually had some interactions with him that were publicly seen, now all of a sudden their brand is deeply affected by that. And that will become, it makes me think of, we put harnesses on agent, we talk about an agent harness, which is what allows an agent to access certain software, do certain things. Like you're going to have brand harnesses, right? Like this is my brand harness, and I'm not, if it's too left wing, I don't want my brand associated. Or
Right.
if it's this or it's that, like
Right.
don't be, then that's a big no.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of important, we'll see where it all goes, but I think it's probably important for people to think about now because change is coming down the pipeline. So you just might as well start thinking about ways to make extra money and what that means and how you're associated with it, for sure.
Totally agree. Brand
Yeah.
harness, you need to think about what your workflows are, those are the things that. So I've started to kind of shift. I've audio recorded most of my day and used it to inform like custom executive assistants that I have in Claude and ChatGPT, and I just started talking with my Claude platform this weekend and say, I need to learn how to, even if I have to talk differently while I'm working, I need to learn how to start mapping out exactly what my process is so that at the end of every week when I go and review, it's not just a review of what did I accomplish, where did I struggle, what do I report back to my employer, what do I need to work on, but it's what are my processes and which of these things could be automated if I had them mapped out well enough, or which one of these things is so repetitive that I can create a Claude skill that just does it. And here's a for instance on that. Show notes, right? The biggest pain in the butt with producing a podcast when you have a tool like Riverside that does all the video stuff for you, right? Creates clips for you, is these lengthy show notes every time that have timestamps and your guest links and all that. Well, I created a Claude skill for each one of the podcast branches that I just say, hey, call the vibe show notes, and here's the transcript, here's a screenshot of my guest LinkedIn profile, build the show notes, and boom, they're done. Copy and paste into YouTube, copy and paste into Spotify. Now you're talking about a half an hour, at least to an hour, every show of time saved, and those add up over time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's priceless. And it's interesting because, I did another talk with the Commerce on Marketing just the other week. And the whole conversation was consistency and these things that we do daily that you don't even think about, right? Like, and not quite the same, but I think about like even brushing your teeth is something that we do consistently that, you just don't even think about. But that does make me think, okay, what in my life do I do on a consistent basis? Could I have Claude or, any of the other ones take off my plate? Because it just frees you up to be more present in the moment. It frees you up to, you're already just doing it on autopilot anyway. So why not, because I assume I don't pay enough attention. I'm not aware enough in my daily workflow to realize what I could actually take off my plate. And you
Well,
did that by
buyer
just,
beware.
and that's something that you just tracked through your daily like recordings, or how did you discover that that was something you could take off your plate?
I started thinking about it. So the first time I sat down and thought about it, I was like, I don't know, what do I do repetitively? And I had trouble coming up with it. I mean, this is a problem with deploying AI in white collar work. Okay, in software engineering, there is a prescriptive way of doing everything. Everything has hierarchies, it has workflows, it has so automating all that stuff first makes sense because it's already kind of a built-in system. In a lot of workplaces, most people's workflow is here.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to start to shift my mind to, okay, how do I create standard operating procedures for everything that I do? And I'm not quite there yet, but it made me think, well, what do I do repetitively? And so one of the things I do repetitively, I have a ChatGPT check-in with 4 of our leadership team where we have a conversation string in my ChatGPT account that goes to their ChatGPT accounts, where just 3 times a day they talk through what they've been up to for the last 3 hours. And then at the end of the week, at the beginning of the week, I take our leadership meeting notes and I tell their ChatGPT account what their deliverables were according to our CEO. And so it interfaces with them during the week to let them know how they're doing. Pardon me. At the end of the week, I mine each of those. I go in and ask each of those, like, what did they accomplish? What can I report back for their status report? Like all that work, I have skills that do that. So I just go into a project that I have in Claude and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for January or February 16th through 20th. Write me all the messages to their chat GPTs, all the emails, and then I copy and paste that in. I say, okay, write all their emails and one big updated sheet that I can send to the entire team. And like all that gets done. Like it's nothing.
And you don't think, so this is going to be just an interesting question, because some of the backlash that AI gets is that it is preventing us from using our brains so much, right? But it's interesting because the flip side of that is this is something you do pretty much on autopilot anyway. Like this is just like, because like you said, it's just in your mind. It's just how you do it. And I think about how many times I've been in a position in a job where I just do things, right? So if I had to train somebody, I'm like, well, I don't really know about training them because I just do it. It's just a part of it.
Yes.
So that's really interesting. So do you actually feel as though, I do believe, we're a consumer kind of mindset. So I do worry about the dumbing down kind of factor. But do you, I guess, see how AI can actually just, are you concerned about that? The dumbing down? Do you feel like you're using your brain less? That's what I'm trying to get to.
No, I actually find the opposite, and that's what some studies have said. I almost said buyer beware when you were talking about taking some of that work off of your plate. And what most studies are finding is that power users are more busy and doing more because of AI than not less. They're not freeing up time to just go spend sitting and meditating or hanging out with their wife and kids. They're creating more work for themselves because they now have more bandwidth, which gives them more ideas. So if you take just that for instance, like what I normally do, that I'll do that on a Sunday. I just did that this morning, right? Is so I would normally have to go into each one of their chats and be like, "Hey, chat, this is Jason. So I need this and this and that." Like I just have all that spit out, so I just copy and paste that in there. In the meantime, I'm working on my newsletter, and I'm thinking through like, what's a real thought leader piece that I could be. What do I need to talk about this week that isn't just AI noise and that everybody else is talking about? And so I'm able to do a lot deeper work, and I am iterating back and forth with Claude on that. Or I'll go to Gemini and just be like, okay, what's one I've done recently? Every once in a while I'll have a crazy idea. Like, what if you scrape the internet for every good deed that's ever been done by humanity, right? And none of the bad stuff, and then put that in a model and created synthetic data so that you had enough data of good human activity to pre-train a model on nothing but the good side of humans. Like, what would that look like? And I'll just have this 10-minute back and forth with any of these models about what the boundaries around doing something like that is, what the implications would be, and this and that. And then when I'm all done, I'll say, okay, write a newsletter article that summarizes what we just went through. and then I will go through and I'll edit that a little bit for myself, and then now I have a newsletter article, and it was a deep philosophical conversation with basically a PhD that that's much deeper than me trying to figure out whether or not Doc got all his deliverables done this week, which is
Yeah.
important to our business and needs to be reported, but isn't something that I need to spend an hour per person figuring out when AI can dig all that out for me in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. Do you see anything big coming up over the week ahead? Do you think anything big's gonna come out this week?
I'm keeping an eye on whether or not the Peter Schumer article continues to gain some steam. So it does feel like it's opened some eyes. When I was in Detroit having breakfast with my daughter at the hotel, heard CNN talking about it. So it is hitting mainstream news. My dad's 80th birthday was this week, and I'm going there for steaks tonight to his house. It'll be interesting to see because he and my sister aren't into AI. To see what they're hearing. It's very difficult when most of your friends are very into the AI stuff to figure out like what's the pulse of the real public as far as this stuff is concerned.
Right. And that's fair because it is in that, what's the whole saying? And I love that you and I actually have the mindfulness in common because, we talk about things. But it is interesting because, your world's kind of a reflection of you, right? So you surround yourself with people who are also interested in the same thing. So to be able to get a pulse outside of your bubble, I love that. I love that you do that. So that's smart because I have no idea what's coming in AI. And every time I go through phases where I feel like I'm catching up, it all changes so fast. So
Well, that's why we meet every Sunday.
it's true. It is true. But I'm going to just keep putting it out there, man. If somebody can accelerate that process in the healthcare field, specifically with, physical therapy, anything kind of senior care, that I think would be a big win for a lot of people if that could come sooner than later.
And I think you should reach out to Julie if you decide to do that because she would be great for product development and to have that outside actual consumer voice at the table.
Yeah, I think that'd be important. Like truly, if I knew the right people, I feel like you're one of the right people, and this platform could be one of the right places. But
Robotics is an expensive industry to get into. I love your ambition. I will sit with it. But yeah. Listen, if you're out there and you're a funder and this interests you, yeah, get a hold of me. I'm more than happy to get a start up and put together a team that could actually build that kind of thing. But you have somebody who's good at connections and sales and somebody who understands the product that needs to be made. What we don't have at the table yet is the people that can actually build this type of tooling. But
yeah.
Who knows, Julie? The future might be.
It might be. It might be. But I'm looking forward to connecting again next week because I'll learn something, I'm sure.
AGI robotics.
Yes.
I love it. Talk to you soon.